The colossal spacecraft drifted silently through the void, hidden within the shadow of Nibiru as it approached the inner solar system. The Anunnaki were gradually approaching Earth. They could sense the wars and explosions, as if perceiving human stupidity in its final frontier through the threads of the cosmic ocean. Enki, their wise and revered leader, stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the blue planet that had once been their home. He was surrounded by a council of elders, each as imposing and majestic as the myths that had persisted through the ages. The Anunnaki had long been the subjects of Earth's most ancient legends. They were the gods who descended from the heavens, the architects of humanity, and the beings who had once walked among men. Their departure had left a void, a silent promise of return etched into the annals of history. Now that promise was being fulfilled. Enki said, "At last we will reveal ourselves to humans." And Enlil thought, "At last we will have revenge." As the ship drew closer to Earth, Enki called a meeting of his council. Gathered in the grand hall of the spacecraft, the council members listened intently as Enki spoke of their mission and the prophecies that had guided them. "Brothers and sisters," Enki began, his voice resonating with authority and wisdom, "we have journeyed far and long. Our return to Earth was foretold by the ancient stars and written in the tablets of destiny. The time has come to reconnect with our creation, to guide humanity through its darkest hour and into the light of a new dawn. The ancient wars between me and my brother Enlil no longer take place in our lives, and a time of peace will finally come to Earth." Enlil stood slightly apart, his eyes narrowed as he listened. His thoughts were a storm of doubt and vengeance. The council members nodded in agreement. Among them were Ninmah, the healer and mother, whose name was long associated with the archetype of the Great Mother and the wisdom of the mother of all the gods. Ninhursag, the geneticist who had helped create humanity, and Ningishzida, who became known as Thoth in ancient Egypt, the scribe and keeper of knowledge and wisdom. Each of them had written their name in the history of Earth. Enki continued, "Our observations from afar have shown us that humanity stands at a critical juncture. They have advanced in ways we once hoped for, yet they are plagued by the same conflicts and struggles that have defined their history. They need our guidance now more than ever." Ninmah spoke next, her voice gentle yet firm. "We must be cautious. Our presence could be overwhelming for them. We need to approach with wisdom and compassion, offering our knowledge and support without imposing our will." Thoth nodded, adding, "The ancient texts and prophecies are clear. This is a time of renewal, not conquest. We must help them find the path to unity and enlightenment." The spacecraft continued its silent approach, the blue planet growing larger in the viewports. Enki's mind was filled with memories of ancient Sumer, the great cities of Uruk, Eridu, and Babylon, and the towering ziggurats that had once reached for the heavens. He remembered the creation of humanity, the Great Flood, and the conflicts that had driven the Anunnaki to leave. "We must prepare for our descent," Enki said, breaking the silence. "We will make our presence known at the ancient sites that still hold the memories of our time on Earth. These places are sacred to both us and humanity." The council dispersed to ready themselves for the monumental task ahead. Enki remained at the helm, gazing at Earth with a mixture of anticipation and resolve. He knew that their return would be a pivotal moment in the history of both their races. The skies above the Middle East were darkened by the smoke of endless battles, where the armies of Gog and Magog clashed with a ferocity unseen since the dawn of mankind. Apocalyptic anxiety and messianic fervor gripped the world, manifesting in religious fanaticism, wars, rebellions, and the slaughter of countless innocents deemed infidels. The landscape of human civilization had become a battlefield. In the West, a coalition of nations advanced with modern weaponry, clashing with the Eastern armies in a deadly struggle for dominance. This was not merely a conventional war. It was a conflict steeped in ancient prophecies and driven by divine wrath. Cities that had once been bustling centers of culture and commerce were now reduced to rubble, their streets running red with blood. In the heart of this devastation, Jerusalem stood as a besieged fortress. The holy city, sacred to so many, had become the epicenter of the conflict. Here, the prophecies of old converged, and the air was thick with the tension of the impending divine judgment. The Temple Mount, a place of pilgrimage and prayer, was now a heavily fortified citadel, its ancient stones bearing witness to the relentless onslaught. Natural disasters compounded the human suffering. Earthquakes rocked the planet, splitting the ground and swallowing entire neighborhoods. Torrential rains and violent storms flooded cities, while unprecedented droughts turned fertile lands into barren wastelands. The seas frothed with fury, sending tsunamis crashing into coastal regions, obliterating everything in their path. Volcanoes, dormant for centuries, erupted with cataclysmic force, spewing ash and lava that blotted out the sun and turned day into night. Pestilence swept across the continents, with new and deadly diseases ravaging populations already weakened by war and famine. Hospitals overflowed with the sick and dying, and the world's medical systems buckled under the strain. Amidst this, voices of doom proclaimed that these were the signs of the end times, that humanity was facing divine retribution for its sins. In the West, religious leaders called for crusades, urging their followers to reclaim the Holy Lands from the Eastern invaders. Prophets and visionaries emerged, preaching of impending salvation and the coming of a new age. In the East, imams and clerics rallied their believers, declaring a jihad against the infidels and promising divine favor for those who fought in the name of their God. The battlefields of the modern world mirrored those of ancient texts. In Iraq, near the ancient city of Babylon, forces clashed in what seemed an echo of the primordial conflicts between the gods. Here, in the cradle of civilization, the struggle for supremacy had returned with a vengeance, as if history itself was repeating its darkest chapters. The prophecies of Ezekiel and Revelation seemed to unfold before the eyes of the living. Ezekiel's vision of Gog and Magog's armies converging on the dwellers of the navel of the earth became a nightmarish reality. The nations listed in the ancient scrolls, Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, and Togarmah, were now modern states embroiled in the conflict, their leaders driven by ancient hatreds and divine mandates. In this apocalyptic theater, the return of the Anunnaki took on a profound significance. As their ship approached, the Anunnaki observed the scenes below with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. Enki, ever the compassionate leader, felt the weight of their mission. They were returning not merely to observe, but to intervene in humanity's darkest hour. "Look at what has become of our creation," Enki murmured, his voice heavy with regret. "We left them to find their way, but they are lost in a storm of their own making." Enlil said, "I've tried to wipe them out before their complete destruction. They corrupted the earth and did not deserve this planet. I told them that no one would be worshipped except for me, and so did my children, and then yours. When we left the planet in war. We should not expect anything else but to find it in war. From our names, they made religions. They built their idols through the scriptures we left. Thus, they formed religions. They became so blind that they could explode our ships with the knowledge they obtained and the weapons of terror they built. The scriptures I left in the visions of those I touched were a warning, not a prophecy. Now, the days of Armageddon have arrived, and we are here to fulfill the prophecy. Ninmah, standing beside him, nodded solemnly. The time of reckoning is upon them, but we must be careful. Our intervention must bring healing, not further destruction. Thoth, the keeper of knowledge, stepped forward. The ancient texts foretold of this time. The celestial and the terrestrial are aligned. We must fulfill our role as guides and protectors. As the ship descended, the Anunnaki prepared for their re-entry into the world of men. They would first make their presence known at the ancient sites still revered by humanity: Jerusalem, the Sinai Peninsula, and the temples of Mesopotamia. These places, steeped in divine history, were the bridges between heaven and earth, and they would serve as the points of contact for their mission. In Jerusalem, amidst the ruins and the rubble, a small group of faithful awaited a sign. They had held on to the hope of divine intervention, even as the world around them crumbled. As the Anunnaki ship descended, a bright light pierced the darkened skies, illuminating the Temple Mount. The faithful fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces as they whispered prayers of gratitude and awe. In the Sinai, where the ancient spaceport once stood, the ground trembled with the approach of the divine craft. Here, in this desolate wilderness, the Anunnaki would re-establish their connection with humanity, bridging the gap that had grown so wide over the millennia. And in the ancient lands of Sumer, the echoes of the past resonated with the promise of renewal. The Anunnaki had returned, not as conquerors, but as shepherds of their creation, ready to guide humanity through the storm and into the dawn of a new age. As the Anunnaki set foot on Earth once more, Enki addressed humanity through a global broadcast. His message was one of hope and guidance. People of Earth, we have returned to aid you in this time of need. We come not as conquerors, but as mentors. Your destiny is intertwined with ours, and together we shall navigate the trials that lie ahead. Enlil, standing beside his brother, added a note of caution. Remember the lessons of the past. Your future is yours to shape, but it is a future that must be built on cooperation and harmony, not conflict and division. The world held its breath, caught between the terror of the present and the hope of a future guided by the hands of its ancient creators. The Anunnaki's return marked the beginning of a new chapter in the shared destiny of gods and men. A chapter filled with the promise of enlightenment, the potential for peace, and the challenge of overcoming the shadows of the past. Enki and his council stepped forward, their presence commanding yet serene. Representatives from the world's nations, guided by a global consortium of scientists and historians, approached with cautious reverence. Enki's voice, resonant and wise, broke the silence. I am Enki, and these are the Anunnaki. We have ancient ties to humanity and a mission of renewal. Humans have long been gripped by apocalyptic anxiety and messianic fervor, manifesting in religious fanaticism, wars, rebellions, and the slaughter of infidels. As armies from the West clash with those from the East, civilizations shake, and cities are engulfed in carnage. Natural disasters and intensifying catastrophes provoke questions about divine wrath and impending doom. You ask, is this the apocalypse? Can there be salvation in messianic times? Drawing parallels between the 21st century AD and the 21st century BCE, I highlighted the interconnectedness of these periods. The present, past, and future share a common thread of messianic expectation and prophecy. Understanding the future requires delving into ancient prophecies, not through modern fear-driven predictions, but through ancient records that documented past events and predicted future ones. In each apocalyptic period, the relationship between heaven and earth, both physical and spiritual, plays a pivotal role. Ancient sites linked earth with the heavens, crucial for events, while religion expressed the spiritual aspects. A changing relationship between man and the divine marked these epochs, with early humans interacting with multiple gods, a concept that evolved over time. Then Enki recounted the story of the Anunnaki, beginning with their arrival from Nibiru, seeking gold. We arrived on Earth 432,000 years before the deluge, establishing cities and fashioning the first humans. The deluge story in Genesis attributed to Yahweh originally involved a conflict between me and my brother Enlil. This rivalry, rooted in our home planet Nibiru, influenced subsequent events on Earth. Although I was the firstborn, I was denied succession, a status given to Enlil, leading to ongoing resentment and conflict between our descendants. Our rivalry affected our terrestrial assignments. Enlil, in charge of Earth, and I, given dominion over the seas, established settlements in Sumer. Our conflict extended to our offspring, influencing Earth's history. My son Marduk sought to redress perceived injustices, leading to further conflicts and shifts in power. We established key sites for our operations in Sumer, like Enlil's command post in Nippur. The deluge destroyed these sites, necessitating new facilities, including a spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula and a new control center at Jerusalem. These changes reflected a new order post-deluge, with humans now junior partners to us. Mankind's first high civilization emerged in Mesopotamia around 3,800 BCE, following a visit by Anu, the head of our pantheon. This visit established peace among the gods and divided territories among the principal clans. The Sumerian texts reveal that we deliberately divided the earth into regions, establishing cities with specific functions. Kingship, granted from heaven, played a central role in civilization, with chosen rulers serving as intermediaries between gods and men. This system of governance and justice, symbolized by celestial kingship, persisted through the ages. At that time, the first region in Mesopotamia was given to Enlil and his sons. The second region in Egypt and Nubia was given to me and my sons. The third region in the Indus Valley was given to Inanna. The fourth region in the Sinai Peninsula was the Forbidden Land, reserved only for the gods. The celestial and terrestrial relationships determined events on Earth. Our calendar, introduced around 3,760 BCE, aligned with celestial observations, shaping religious festivals and societal structure. The zodiac, a celestial clock, guided our activities and influenced mankind's fate. The slow rotation of the zodiacal clock, or precession, marked the passage of ages, each lasting 2160 years. This celestial time influenced not only divine activities, but also human history. The zodiacal ages, recognized by ancient civilizations, continue to impact your understanding of time and prophecy. The interplay between divine time, earthly time, and celestial time determined destinies. Marduk's struggles and aspirations were shaped by these temporal frameworks, with celestial alignments marking significant shifts. The quest to understand humanity's fate involves unraveling these ancient prophecies and celestial cycles. By examining the records of Babylonian and Assyrian priests, biblical prophets, and modern scholars, a clearer picture of your destiny emerges. This journey through time reveals the profound connection between our past, present, and future. Enlil stepped forward, his presence commanding a different kind of respect. His voice, deep and authoritative, resonated through the assembly. "I am Enlil," he began, "and I acknowledge the ancient ties we share with humanity, as well as the pivotal role we have played in your history. The narratives of old have cast me in various lights, sometimes harsh, but always integral to the balance of power and the structure of civilization." He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. "There is a mystery surrounding the name of Yahweh," he continued, "a mystery deeply entwined with divine governance and cosmic order. This name, interpreted by humanity in many ways through the scriptures, holds profound significance. It is a name connected not only to me, but also to my sons, Ninurta, Ishkur, and Utu. In the past, the region of ancient Mesopotamia was given to us. A leader was chosen to be the seed of humanity, and a prophecy was made about the coming of a Messiah, but the representatives leaned forward, eager to learn more, but Enki raised a hand. "However," he said, "this mystery is not one that can be unveiled at this moment. The understanding required to grasp its full meaning is beyond the current comprehension of both your scholars and spiritual leaders." Enlil glanced at Enki, and he gave a nod of affirmation. "For now, it is sufficient to know that the divine order we represent and the names you hold sacred are more than mere symbols. They are embodiments of cosmic principles and destinies that will reveal themselves when the time is right." The crowd murmured, digesting his words as Enlil concluded. "In due course, as humanity evolves and your understanding deepens, these mysteries will be disclosed. Until then, focus on the wisdom and guidance we offer today. Prepare yourselves for a future where the past and present converge to illuminate the path forward." As the words of Enki and Enlil echoed in the minds of the assembled representatives, a tense silence filled the air. The revelations about the Anunnaki and their historical involvement with humanity stirred deep currents of uncertainty and apprehension. It wasn't long before these emotions began to surface in more disruptive ways. The world's major religions, already fragile under the weight of modern skepticism, began to fracture even more rapidly. Ancient texts and long-held beliefs were scrutinized under a new, unforgiving light. The divine figures worshipped by millions were now seen as mere actors in a cosmic drama orchestrated by beings from another world. This disillusionment spread like wildfire, igniting fierce debates and violent confrontations. Leaders of religious communities struggled to maintain control. In temples, churches, mosques, and synagogues around the world, congregations demanded answers that their leaders could no longer provide with certainty. The promise of divine revelation and eternal truths crumbled into a myriad of interpretations, each one more contested than the last. The sacred texts were now seen as fragmented records of extraterrestrial encounters, their spiritual essence diminished. In the streets, protests erupted. Clashes between believers and skeptics grew increasingly violent. People who once found solace in their faith now felt betrayed, leading to widespread despair and anger. The symbols of unity and peace became focal points for conflict. Statues were torn down, places of worship were vandalized, and holy books were burned in acts of defiance and frustration. The geopolitical landscape, already strained by historical animosities, became even more volatile. Nations with strong religious identities found themselves at odds internally, as well as with their neighbors. Political leaders, seeking to harness the chaos for their gain, stoked the flames of discord. Nationalist and sectarian rhetoric reached fever pitch, driving wedges deeper into already fractured societies. In the Middle East, long a region of religious significance and conflict, tensions reached a breaking point. The cities once known as the cradles of civilization now echoed with the sounds of artillery and gunfire. In Jerusalem, a city sacred to many faiths, skirmishes between different religious factions turned into full-blown battles. The Holy Land became a war zone, each side claiming divine justification for their actions. Across Europe, secularism clashed with resurgent religious fervor. The ancient cathedrals and monasteries, symbols of a bygone era of faith, became battlegrounds. In Asia, where diverse religious traditions coexisted, the societal fabric began to unravel as communal harmony gave way to strife. India, with its myriad of gods and centuries-old spiritual heritage, witnessed riots and sectarian violence. The Americas were not immune. In the United States, the land of freedom of belief, polarization reached unprecedented levels. Communities split along lines of faith and non-faith, each side entrenched in their worldview, unwilling to bridge the divide. South America, with its rich tapestry of indigenous and imported religions, saw the rise of radical movements seeking to reclaim ancestral beliefs, often through violent means. The global chaos was not just physical, but also intellectual and emotional. The collective human psyche was shattered, struggling to find meaning in a world where the gods had turned out to be extraterrestrial visitors. Philosophers and theologians grappled with this new paradigm, but their efforts were often drowned out by the noise of conflict and upheaval. As the chaos on Earth intensified, the Anunnaki remained in their spaceships, hovering above, observing the unfolding events with a mix of concern and curiosity. Enki and Enlil, the primary orchestrators of humanity's early development, watched as the world they had once shaped descended into turmoil. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, they decided to seek counsel from their father, Anu, the King of Heaven. In a private communication aboard their flagship, Enki and Enlil presented the dire state of affairs to Anu. They spoke of the disillusionment and anger sweeping across Earth, the collapse of religious structures, and the violence that seemed to be spiraling out of control. They expressed their concerns about humanity's potential self-destruction and the growing animosity directed toward the Anunnaki. Anu, with his vast wisdom and experience, listened intently. After a period of contemplation, he decreed that it was time for the Anunnaki to descend to Earth once more. Their mission would be to prepare humanity for Anu's own arrival from Nibiru. He would present himself to humans, not as a god to be worshipped, but as a leader aiming to guide them through this epical transition. As the Anunnaki prepared for this momentous descent, whispers of liberty began to spread across Earth. People, emboldened by their newfound skepticism, rejected the ancient gods. They no longer sought peace but yearned for vengeance against those they perceived as deceivers. These whispers soon turned into cries for action as groups formed to defy the Anunnaki openly. It started with a small but determined faction, armed with modern weapons and driven by a desire to reclaim their autonomy. This group launched an attack on a small Anunnaki reconnaissance ship, successfully bringing it down in a fiery crash. The act served as a rallying point, inspiring similar movements across various nations. Before long, entire countries began to align against the Anunnaki, raising their weapons skyward, ready to defend their newfound independence. Enlil, witnessing the aggression against his people, was quick to anger. He saw the downing of the spacecraft as a direct affront, an act of war that demanded retribution. He began to formulate plans for a decisive strike to quell the rebellion and reassert Anunnaki dominance. However, just as he prepared to unleash his fury, the skies above Earth were illuminated by the arrival of a massive spacecraft. Anu, the King of Heaven had arrived. The colossal vessel descended from the heavens, casting a shadow over the land below. Its appearance halted the chaos momentarily as both humans and Anunnaki gazed upon it in awe and trepidation. Anu's presence was both commanding and reassuring, embodying the power and wisdom of the Anunnaki. Anu communicated directly with Enki and Enlil, urging restraint and wisdom. He reminded them of their purpose, to guide and protect humanity, not to dominate through fear and violence. Anu's voice, carried through advanced communication channels, was projected across Earth, reaching the ears of leaders and ordinary people alike. People of Earth, Anu's voice resonated. I am Anu, King of Heaven. I come not as a conqueror, but as a guide. We have watched over you for millennia, and now in this time of great turmoil, we seek to help you find a path to unity and understanding. Lay down your weapons, and let us work together to forge a future where all can thrive. The arrival of Anu and his call for peace created a ripple of uncertainty among the human factions. Some were moved by his words, seeing a chance for reconciliation and a better future. Others, fueled by years of resentment and betrayal, remained defiant, unwilling to trust the beings they once considered gods. Tensions remained high, but Anu's presence brought a semblance of hope. The next steps would be critical. The Anunnaki had to prove their intentions through actions, rebuilding trust with humanity while addressing the deep-seated grievances that had led to the current crisis. Anu, understanding the delicate situation, called for a grand council involving leaders from both the Anunnaki and human factions. In the days leading up to the council, Anu and his sons, Enki and Enlil, made concerted efforts to demonstrate their commitment to peace and collaboration. They visited the crash site of the downed spaceship, offering condolences and reparations to those affected. Enki, known for his wisdom and compassion, spearheaded efforts to heal the wounded and rebuild communities devastated by the recent conflicts. Enlil, despite his initial anger, began to see the value in Anu's vision of unity. He reached out to human military leaders, forging alliances and working to dismantle the remaining pockets of resistance through dialogue and mutual respect. The process was slow and fraught with challenges, but gradually, trust began to rebuild. At the Grand Council, Anu presented a vision for the future, one where the Anunnaki and humanity would coexist in harmony, leveraging their combined knowledge and strengths to create a new world. He proposed a covenant, a binding agreement that would ensure mutual respect, cooperation, and the shared goal of prosperity. The covenant included several key tenets: equality and respect, shared knowledge, environmental stewardship, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence. Any conflicts would be resolved through dialogue and cooperation, with a joint council overseeing the implementation of the covenant. The council deliberated for days, with passionate speeches, heated debates, and moments of profound reflection. In the end, the majority agreed to the covenant, seeing it as the only viable path forward. The agreement was signed in a ceremony that symbolized the unity of both humans and the Anunnaki. With the covenant in place, the Anunnaki and humanity embarked on a journey of unprecedented collaboration. Ancient technologies were revived, healing the scars of war and environmental damage. Cities of light and harmony rose where ruins once stood. The wisdom of the Anunnaki, combined with human ingenuity, ushered in an era of prosperity and enlightenment. The prophecies were fulfilled, not through destruction, but through renewal and hope. The dawn of the Golden Age began with the first tangible signs of transformation. Anunnaki engineers, alongside human scientists, unveiled advancements in energy production, harnessing clean and limitless power from sources once thought to be mythical. The deserts bloomed with lush vegetation, and the oceans, cleansed of pollution, teemed with life once more. Education became the cornerstone of this new era. Anunnaki scholars shared their vast knowledge of the cosmos, genetics, and ancient history with eager human students. Together, they built institutions that were not only centers of learning, but also hubs of innovation and creativity. Knowledge that had once been the preserve of the gods was now accessible to all, sparking a renaissance of thought and culture. In the realm of medicine, breakthroughs were made that eradicated diseases and extended life expectancy. Anunnaki healing techniques, combined with human medical advancements, led to the development of cures for ailments that had plagued humanity for millennia. Health and well-being improved dramatically, contributing to a sense of optimism and security. Art and culture flourished as never before. The blending of Anunnaki and human traditions gave rise to new forms of expression that celebrated the unity and diversity of this new world. Music, art, literature, and architecture reflected the harmonious coexistence of two great civilizations, inspiring future generations to aspire to greater heights. The political landscape also transformed. The joint council established under the covenant ensured fair representation and addressed issues through consensus and dialogue. This new form of governance, blending the best aspects of Anunnaki wisdom and human democratic principles, created a stable and just society. The old divisions and conflicts that had once torn the world apart began to fade, replaced by a collective commitment to peace and progress. Economies thrived on the principles of sustainability and mutual benefit. Resources were managed wisely, and technologies were developed to ensure that all could prosper without depleting the planet's natural wealth. Trade flourished, not just in goods, but in ideas and innovations, fostering a global community bound by shared goals and values. As the years passed, the memory of the chaos and conflict that had preceded the Golden Age became a distant echo. The younger generations, born into a world of cooperation and enlightenment, could scarcely believe the stories of strife and division their elders recounted. They grew up in a world where the sky was no longer a battlefield, but a canvas for exploration and discovery. The Anunnaki and humans looked to the stars, not with fear or longing, but with a sense of adventure and possibility. Joint missions ventured beyond the confines of Earth, exploring distant planets and seeking new frontiers. The spirit of discovery and unity that defined the Golden Age propelled them forward, driven by the shared belief that together, there were no limits to what they could achieve. Anu then convened a new council, gathering both Anunnaki and human leaders to address the critical moment at hand. In the grand hall of the ancient city of Babylon, Anu stood before the assembly, his presence commanding both awe and reverence. His voice carried the weight of millennia, resonating with the truth and wisdom of ages. "Children of Earth and Nibiru," Anu began, "we stand at the threshold of a new dawn. The miracles you have witnessed are but a glimpse of the knowledge and power that has been hidden from you for so long. Today, I shall unveil the truths that have been kept from humanity, truths that you are now ready to comprehend." Anu spoke of the forbidden fruit, not as a symbol of sin, but as the knowledge that empowers and liberates. He shared the secret of long life, revealing that it was not the exclusive domain of the gods, but a gift to be shared with those who seek wisdom and understanding. "Understand this," Anu continued. "The divine is not found in temples or rituals, but in the very essence of life itself. The true nature of God is beyond the petty confines of dogma and creed. God is the force that permeates all existence, the consciousness that binds the universe together. He spoke of love not as a commandment, but as the fundamental principle of the universe. Love is the highest form of energy, Anu declared. It is the binding force that sustains life and creation. To love is to connect with the divine within yourself and others. Anu then explained the concept of the divine as the mind of the universe. The universe is mental, he said. Everything that exists is a manifestation of thought. Your thoughts shape your reality. Therefore, to change the world, you must first change your mind. As above, so below. As within, so without, Anu explained. The macrocosm and the microcosm are reflections of each other. By understanding the workings of your own mind, you can comprehend the mysteries of the cosmos. Anu spoke of vibration, rhythm, and polarity, describing how these principles govern all aspects of existence. Everything is in constant motion, he said, and by aligning yourself with the natural rhythms of life, you can achieve harmony and balance. He addressed the principle of cause and effect, emphasizing personal responsibility and empowerment. Every action has a consequence, Anu reminded them. By understanding this, you can take control of your destiny and create a future of your own design. Lastly, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles, taught the importance of balance and unity within oneself. By embracing both the masculine and feminine aspects, individuals could achieve wholeness and harmony, reflecting the divine unity of the cosmos. Anu's words were a catalyst for awakening. They dismantled the old paradigms and invited humanity to step beyond the matrix of illusion. The prophecy spoke of a time when the veils would be lifted and true wisdom would be revealed. That time had come. In this new era, humanity was meant to explore not just the physical world, but the vast realms of consciousness and spirit. The ancient barriers between the gods and mortals dissolved as humans began to realize their own divinity and potential. The old conflicts and misunderstandings gave way to a profound sense of unity and purpose. The world beyond the matrix was a world of infinite possibilities, where the boundaries of the past no longer constrained the spirit of exploration and enlightenment. With the Anunnaki as their guides and partners, humans embarked on a journey of cosmic discovery, unraveling the mysteries of existence and embracing their role as co-creators of reality. The time for revelations seems to have truly arrived. This video is a work of fiction and should be viewed as such. Confessing honestly, while writing this text, my body trembled and shook. I was undoubtedly inspired by positive forces from the universe, which await human evolution to reveal themselves to us. There is no doubt that the Anunnaki have left us significant lessons to study, and I also have no doubt that some of these forces accompany and observe me. I have had the opportunity to see UFOs on different occasions in my life. I was prophetically warned about a great catastrophe that occurred in my country and in my city. It is no coincidence that I am here making these videos for you. I have a positive perspective on life and the universe. I enjoy studying ancient mysteries, knowing that there are wars and destruction, but believing that goodness has always existed in the universe. I believe in the connection with the creative source that encompasses everything in this universe. As mentioned, while writing this text, my body shook, trembled, and got goosebumps. As I write this part, tears moisten my face without me understanding why. I hope that this force of peace and love can be felt through my work and resonate in your life, bringing harmony and peace. Soon, new videos with different insights on these topics will be released. The intention is to explore the content about the return of the Anunnaki from a rational perspective, not just a fictional one. So, If you don't want to miss these videos, subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, hit the like button and remember to share it with your friends and family. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.